right, guys, welcome to another episode of Get the Puck Out. I'm your host, Chris Mancuso, joined as always by Jack Gotsell. He's back. Shout out to Doug McLean for hosting last week. Always a good time bringing him in from Florida, the pride of Summerside, PEI. Good dude, did a great job, had a lot of fun. Jack, we're back. It's the end of the week. Last episode came out Monday. Unfortunately, we're going to get some sad news out of the way here. Walter Gretzky, father of Wayne Gretzky, passed away at age 82. He had been suffering from Parkinson's disease amongst other health complications. Wayne came out and said, listen, if you're a kid in Canada, man, any hockey tournament you've ever played in, whether it's in Brantford itself or just around, man, like you met Walter Gretzky. I met him as a kid. Everybody met him as a kid. Always signed like 10 million autographs for people nonstop all the time. Hell of a guy, man. You know what? He does a ton for minor hockey too. I personally think it's like a bad look on the NHL that he's passed away without being in the Hall of Fame under the builder category. I think he's done that much for kids and being an ambassador to the game that they really missed the mark on that shit. Like that happens. It kind of reminds me of Pat Burns not being in the Hall of Fame before he died too, which is just makes you sick to your stomach. Kind of the same vibe with this, to be honest. But Walter Gretzky, what a dad. Imagine making Wayne Gretzky. Like what a life.
Yeah, and honestly, he acted as almost like a father to the whole country of Canada for like young hockey players, kind of like how you mentioned. It's sad to see that guy go. I mean, such a good guy, like off the ice. I mean, was there a more famous dad of a professional athlete than Gretzky's pops?
Never, man. I mean, maybe Tiger Woods' dad and Gretzky's dad, both have passed away. They should definitely be sharing a beer wherever they are, man, because that is two of the greatest, like you said, probably the two most famous hockey dads of all time. It's sad to see them go. Switching it to the NHL, though, another kind of not sad. He's had a good career, but kind of going to be weird to see him go. The Chicago Blackhawks and defenseman Brent Seabrook announced that he is retiring from the NHL. We all know Seabrook was on that massive money deal that kept his cap hit low, much like Marian Hossa. Doesn't see out the end of the contract, ends up taking it out early. The Blackhawks, because they weren't signed after 35, end up getting completely clear of the cap space. First off, what a career for Brent Seabrook. All the years playing with Duncan Keith and for Canada, etc. He had a great career, but you could tell he was worn right down here at the end.
Yeah, it kind of did fall apart down the stretch, but that doesn't take away from all he's done. He was a critical part of some of those Stanley Cups that the Chicago Blackhawks brought home. He's a very underrated defenseman. I know you mentioned that he played for Team Canada and he was on those Stanley Cup winning teams, and somehow he still managed to be underrated because there was always that defenseman that was just a little bit bigger than him. But he would have been a number one defenseman on so many teams. I mean, that guy was he was a great hockey player.
I was just going to say, Jack, I wanted to touch on this before. The Chicago Blackhawks were such a dynasty now when you really look back at it. So many miles on him. A lot of defensemen, like you see Zdeno Chara playing in Washington. You've seen it happen a million times. Guys play pretty well into their 40s, but not a lot of guys have gone on the long, hard, grueling playoff runs like Seabrook did, man. I mean, there was just that stretch there where, if it wasn't the LA Kings, it was the Chicago Blackhawks getting it done. It felt like every other year there for a bit, but both of us being Bruins fans, we lost one to him as well. And Seabrook was a hell of a player. I think that he'll end up being a guy who finds his way kind of behind the bench or into some sort of player development role, maybe down the road for the Blackhawks. But I want to talk about someone else within the organization of the Blackhawks. We brought up the cap there. The Bowmans, man. Does anybody circumvent the cap like the Bowmans? You got Marian Hossa, who was never going to finish his contract making $1 million a season. He was never playing hockey for $1 million a year. Guy starts claiming his equipment makes him itchy or something like that. Like he's got some skin disease or some shit. Now Seabrook's just able to up and walk away. I mean,
Seabrook was injuries. I mean, that guy would play hockey for free.
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, just the way he structured those deals. Like you knew Seabrook wasn't playing out that entire contract.
No, and you knew it early on too.
Yeah, you knew it when they signed them. That's why the league ended up changing the rules and getting rid of those ludicrously long deals and putting the 8-year max if you're re-signing 7 years on the open market. Because, Stan Bowman, again, we talk about dynasties, we talk about the cap management. Listen, hate it or love it, he was the top dog at it, and that's why they had all the success. And the Chicago Blackhawks have another $6+ million against the cap to spend going into next year. A team with 8 rookies, a team doing pretty damn well with Patrick Kane, no Jonathan Toews. This is a team that, again, all of a sudden, Jack, they spend a little bit of this cap money they got, and all of a sudden they might be right back in the thick of things.
They've been Bowman, a shocker this year.
Scotty Bowman, dude, these guys know what they're doing there. They know when to walk away on guys. Corey Crawford, all the best. God bless. See you later. He's gone. And they'll, this, I mean, I imagine they're going to have to address the goaltending at some point. I know Buddy's been out of his mind, but I'm treading lightly on that. I remember the Hamburglar in Ottawa and funny gimmicks like that. I'm not getting too excited yet, Jack, but certainly
Hannu Toivonen in Boston.
God, the old Hannu Toivonen. That was another guy. Fuck, that's crazy, man. Speaking of Boston, I saw Joe Haggerty from Boston Hockey Now. Jimmy Murphy owns Boston Hockey Now. Him and Jack don't like each other. Guy's basically just a fucking scumbag if we're gonna really talk about it. Yeah, he needs to put the bottle down. But anyway, Haggerty kind of said, are the Toronto Maple Leafs smoke and mirrors? I get it, the Canadian division, blah, blah, blah. If you really look around the NHL, like that Tampa Bay division, not very strong. The Bruins division, not very strong. Like, man, I've said this a million times, and that's why these guys in the mainstream media have no fucking idea what they're talking about. There's only really 8 really good teams this year, and everybody else is just kind of meh. That's really what it is. The North Division's getting a lot of hate for some reason compared to other divisions, but apparently, Jack, so this triggered fighting between Boston Hockey Now, enemies of Tarps Off Sports, and James Myrtle of The Athletic, who everybody knows I trigger to no end. He loves blocking and unblocking me. If you do end up unblocking me, James, and seeing this, remove the goddamn cover photo from your Twitter page. That's not how you hold a hockey stick. You're embarrassing yourself.
Yeah, he holds it like a golf club.
Bro, he holds it like a guy who's like, okay, let's get a picture of me playing hockey because I've never played hockey before. And people might ask. And nobody told him to choke down on that stick, maybe bend his back a little bit. My God, he looked stiff as a fucking board. That's the worst photo of all time. James Myrtle, get rid of it, buddy. I'm trying to help you.
Yeah, and Toronto has come up short against the Bruins in so many playoffs in recent history, but they totally get a win here. How in Boston's head are you that a Boston writer is writing about the Toronto Maple Leafs when they don't even play each other this season? I mean, it's like a weak, cowardly, shit blog, honestly, and it's just for not smoke and mirrors. Look at Austin Matthews this year. Look at Justin Hall. Do you really think this is the same Toronto team that Boston kicked around?
No, this ain't your this ain't your fucking brother's Toronto Maple Leafs. This ain't your dad's Toronto Maple Leafs. Joe Thornton, I think, has made a massive impact inside the locker room. He's also putting up a good amount of production as well, which at his age is unbelievable. He's a legend, but especially like a guy like Matthews, I feel like he's even carrying himself differently. Something's different in the water in Toronto. If they add another good veteran presence on this team come playoff time, I think Joe Haggerty could be eating crow on that. Although what happened with him and Myrtle, I can't see, because unlike Hags, who I don't think likes us because of the Jimmy Murphy stuff, he doesn't block us because he's not a fucking rat weasel like Buddy at The Athletic there. What was being said? Was there a lot of tears going back and forth? Those are two pretty whiny guys.
It was just James Myrtle. I mean, he's scrolling through the internet like he always does, looking for something to cry about. He stumbled upon Haggerty and basically was like, this is stupid. Like, whatever. I don't even remember. I don't care. He has me blocked anyway.
Yeah, well, you're guilty by association. You didn't even know who James Myrtle was. And then
I did not even know who he was when he blocked me.
I was like, man, Myrtle's coming at me. And then he just blocked me. You're like, who's James Myrtle? You went to look him up. You're blocked.
Yep, blocked.
Yeah, those guys don't want anything from us. And they should actually look to Boston Hockey now as a great example of what happens when you cross the boys at Tarps Off Sports. But I want to bring it across the pond here. I'm sitting here in Fort Erie. I take a step out the front door, look across. I see God's country. I see Buffalo. But one thing, God bless the Bills this year. He has been still smiting the Sabres. They're rotten bad. But with all the stuff that's going on with Jack Eichel and Jeff Skinner and the whole shebang-a-bang, Taylor Hall apparently is open to the idea of extending his contract there. He said he's open to anything. It's not like I've had an amazing statistical year by any means so far this year. Just in saying that, I think I've really enjoyed my time here. I really like the guys, the coaching staff, the way we're treated as players, and that it's really solid from the start. My agent and myself were open to anything. So he says, like, although he's had a shitty start and whatever, he would maybe, because of the way that he hasn't performed and that, try another kick at the can in Buffalo. Feels to me kind of like something you're just going to say. Didn't he kind of say that stuff in Arizona for a bit until he absolutely wasn't re-signing
Notice
there?
When he showed up in Buffalo, people were commenting that his picture looked like a hostage photo. And apparently the Pagulas write really good hostage notes too, because that's what that sounds like. I mean, is he really going to stay in Buffalo at the end of the season? Is he even going to make it to the end of the season in Buffalo?
I would think no.
Yeah, why would he not get himself moved here to a contender?
Yeah, especially when you look at his production being low this year. If you're the Sabres, I think that signing was great asset management regardless, because you have the ability to trade him. If they buy into this, Hall's going to re-sign talk, and then he just ends up walking in the offseason, they legitimately just burned $8 million. But
yeah, and why wouldn't Hall
a draft
want to go
try
out a new team for a little bit, like go to a Boston, go to a Colorado, go somewhere and see how you click with that lineup. So then when you go into the next offseason, do I want to stay in this location? Do I want to move on? But maybe he sees the writing on the wall, or maybe money on the wall, I should say, of Jack Eichel requesting a trade out of Buffalo. And he says, oh, I can get a share of that money and I can get that big paycheck. I mean, it's put into question. Does Taylor Hall care about winning, or does he care about the money? We could find out.
I mean, we will find out, because I think that's a really good way to look at it. I don't think now he's open to staying in Buffalo, but I don't think he's open to staying in Buffalo for less than that $8 million 1-year deal he signed. I think that would have to translate into some years on that at the end of the year. The Bostons and the Nashvilles and the other teams that were in on Taylor Hall were more in the range of $5.5 to $6.5 million a season as opposed to 8. And if you're Buffalo, you look down the roster and you see Jeff Skinner, and they got burned once doing that, overpaying a guy. I mean, listen, Skinner had a great season for him, but when that contract happened, like Max said on Monday, he was on Hockey Central at noon, and he was like, I get why he's getting the money, but Buffalo, like, don't give him that. Like, I kind of feel the same way about Hall. Like, you got your ass burned once, get a good asset for him back. It was a 1-year deal. That's how you take care of asset management. That's how you add different pieces through the draft and continue to build the team. And don't draft a guy who can't do a pull-up at the combine. Just a free tidbit of advice. I have some more advice too, actually, here for a friend of the show, actually more like an enemy of the show, but he kind of started it. He went on another podcast and simped, but Sean Avery apparently caught on video smacking somebody's mirror off their car. Is this another incident of bicycle rage?
So I believe Sean Avery went on another podcast and called us immature, but is getting caught on camera smacking a mirror off of a car very mature. He sounded like Dr. Phil before when he was on another podcast, really trying to talk down to us. Maybe figure out your own life, buddy, before you go and decide, critique other people's and try to talk about stuff you don't know about.
Yeah, exactly, man. This guy's a maniac. He goes through the streets of New York, And listen, I get it. People park and drive like assholes. It's dangerous, but he goes around and he's like, hey, you fucking idiot. Like, bro, one of these days, like ripping off mirrors, calling people fucking idiots, calling them googly eyes. And listen, I've seen the videos. He picks his spots. He's not saying that, I bet, to big old fucking guys that would handle him like myself.
Like Martin Brodeur.
Or yeah, Martin Brodeur or me. But anyway, no, like just saying, like, I don't know. I think he picks his spots well, but I mean, maybe not though. And you never know who's carrying what these days. Sean Avery needs to take some of that Dr. Phil advice. I've listened to his podcast, No Gruffs Given. He's very, he's got so much advice. He acts like he's got it all figured out. Well, buddy, ripping fucking mirrors off of other cars, it isn't really the smartest thing.
Well, I mean, he doesn't really have to worry about getting hit in the face because it's all plastic anyway. Can they really do much damage?
He kind of looks like the lizard people. That's hilarious, man. That's funny. That's a real kick in the nuts to Sean Avery. Speaking of getting hit in the nuts, Alexander Ovechkin got the massive hammer dropped on him by the NHL. Boom, huge hammer drop by the NHL. $5,000 fine to a guy who makes $10 bazillion a year. Absolutely hilarious. Now, listen, the NHL player safety department is so goddamn inconsistent. It makes me sick. I don't care if you guys call this a pro Bruins homer rant. Shut the fuck up and listen to it for a second. Brad Marchand cup checked a Tampa Bay Lightning player, sticked him in the nuts. He got 2 games. Ovechkin tried to actually castrate Frederick. Like that shot compared to what Marchand did was so much more violent in nature and was so much more direct and like obvious than Marchand, who skated by and gave him a little doink. That was a full on, like, I'm going to try to lift you up by your gooch and butthole shot to the nuts by Ovechkin. And he gets a $5,000 fine. And before you fucking jabronis out there go, yeah, but Brad Marchand has a history. So does Alexander Ovechkin. I'm pretty sure they've been suspended the same amount of times. I'm pretty sure, if not, maybe Marchand's ahead by 1, but Ovechkin's absolutely a repeat offender. That should have been a couple game suspension. That's rotten. And if it was Brad Marchand, people like James Myrtle from The Athletic and everyone else would be fucking crying. Fuck those fucking people, man.
What pisses me off about it, though, is that I'm an Ovechkin over Crosby guy. And the reason I'm an Ovechkin over Crosby guy is because he plays tough. He plays hard, and he plays a lot more physical. And then you see him do that. Like, fight him. Don't hit him in the nuts. That's like a Sidney Crosby move.
No, but Sid's dropped the gloves before.
Yeah, even Sid wouldn't have done that. I apologize to Crosby.
Yeah, I don't think even Sid would hit someone in the nuts like that. That was weak sauce. I mean, I get it. Frederick's a pain in the ass, man. He drives guys out there nuts. He doesn't stop talking. You can't stick someone in the nuts like that, especially when you're it's 10 ply bullshit when you're sticking a guy in the nuts when you're 230-pound Alexander Ovechkin, Soviet Russia, man. Speaking of Russia, listen, we were on and I asked Doug McLean, what's it going to take for Carey Price to start to get some of the blame in Montreal? I don't think he's the best goalie in the NHL. Now, he didn't get 4 shutouts in a row. The streak ended during last night's game versus the Blackhawks, but Andrei Vasilevskiy is the best goalie in the league, you idiots. I'm going to say it one more time, even louder for the people in the back. Andrei Vasilevskiy is the best goalie in the NHL, you fucking idiots. That kid is unbelievable. He's going to win the Vezina Trophy.
Wasn't I the only one that picked him in our staff picks to win the Vezina?
I think so, man. I think so. And fuck me, man. He's been amazing this year. The Tampa Bay Lightning have always done a great job with asset management from their days to Yzerman right through to the guy they got now, Dubois, or however you say it, Brisebois, I think it is. But yeah, man, they're smart there. That goalie's unbelievable. Tampa Bay Lightning look surefire, ready to go for another Stanley Cup run.
Yeah, he certainly didn't get his goalie coach fired this week like Carey Price did.
No, Carey Price got his goalie coach fired mid-game. And speaking of fired, Jack, Ward is out in Calgary. He is being replaced by, drumroll, Darryl Sutter. Darryl Sutter is back with the Flames. He coached the Flames for 3 seasons between 2002 and 2006. He was also the team's general manager from 2003 to 2010. Sutter had been working as an advisor with the Ducks coaching staff since, I believe, 2019. And last coached in the NHL with the LA Kings back in 16-17. His last of the 6 seasons with them, he spent behind the bench with the Kings. He won the Stanley Cup in 2012 and 2014. It was kind of weird. The Flames struggled last week. They had only won like 1 game out of their previous 6. But after winning last night with Ward, they had won 2 of their last 3 games. They decided to just not wait, make the coaching change now. Sutter's in. I mean, it's hard to critique the move. I think Calgary has way better players than their record indicates. I think Sutter will go in there and get more out of guys. I really think he has an ability, especially in the short term. I think he's going to come in and really shock the system of the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, I know people are making a big thing about how they fired him after a win, but you got to think that decision had been made before that.
Yeah, they were just trying to get Sutter to come back.
Sutter in place and all that. The timing was weird, but I think that was just they had to get Sutter in. So
yeah.
It was after a win, which sucks, but it happens.
Yeah, man, shit like that certainly does happen. I mean, I would rather be fired after a win than mid-game like the Montreal Canadiens goalie coach. I don't know. I mean, I'm starting to get desperation vibes from Big Biceps Bergevin in Montreal.
They're already out there. The desperation vibes are real.
Yeah, I think he knows he's cooked if they don't make the playoffs this year. Especially, they should make it in that North Division. If they don't, Biceps are gonna roll, man. Biceps are going to roll.
I would fire Don Sweeney for Bergevin in the drop of a hat.
Wow.
I really would. I think he's a better GM. I think he makes good moves. I think the offseason moves he made this season were terrific. They haven't worked out as he planned, but you can't knock the moves. The moves were good.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's shown ambition. Certainly he made a tough decision with PK Subban for Weber. I think that's turned out to be an excellent trade for the Montreal Canadiens. I think bringing in Jake Allen was a great thing for them. I know that the players, the veteran players, and Mac told us this on Monday, they really grew tired of Claude Julien in that room, Carey Price being one of them. You saw Dale Weiss kind of point to it the other day on Twitter too. So we'll see, but Carey Price carries a lot of the burden for me in Montreal. This is a guy who didn't give them one fucking penny off of his contract. He always says, I love being a Canadian. It means so much to me. He didn't give them a fucking cents discount. He makes $10.5 million a year, and he's not given $10.5 million performances. And even if they do make the playoffs most years, they just get bounced out anyway. So I don't know, man. I'm growing tired of the Carey Price is the best goalie in the NHL talk. I feel like it's just something players say these days. It's lost its meaning to me. Vasilevskiy, Hellebuck, Tuukka Rask, all better goalies than Carey Price.
They still say Crosby's the best player in the NHL, and we all know that's not true. It's between McDavid, McKinnon, and Matthews. And Matthews is on the outside.
And Patrick Kane this year. Patrick Kane this season has been unbelievable.
I'll give you that.
32 or 33 years old, playing with 8 rookies on his team. I think he's got 35, 36 points on the year. I know he's not as electric anymore as those guys, but I don't know, man. He's going to be in that Hart Trophy race, I think, alongside Connor McDavid and either one of McKinnon or Austin Matthews. Those are your top 4 guys right now. I know people say crazy things, and it's yeah, in their time they were, man, but you got to kind of look at these things from a place of no bias. And I just feel like it's almost like the expected answer to say that Carey Price is the best goalie in the NHL now. It's he's going to
end up being the best goalie to never win a Stanley Cup at this rate. That's what he's going to end up being.
Yeah, man. And he needs to wake his ass up and either put up the performances or just be a man and ask out. If you're really not happy there, be a man and ask out, because, they're going to be in a position here to get some decent draft picks, especially if they moved Price. They should know if they're looking to get a goalie of the future, to kind of leave in the system to get better as they continue to roll with Allen or something like that. I don't think it's fair the way he's played on that contract, man. I think the fans deserve more consistency, and I think he's got to be better overall. Speaking of goalies, though, before we go here, Jack, the New York Rangers have Shesterkin. He's injured, man, and it didn't look good. It looked like it could be like a hip or a groin, but I don't know. He looked like in a lot of pain. Like you've done a groin before, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you know what that's like. It hurts, but like he looked like he was more hurt than that. I'm worried about his hip.
I mean, either way, that can be painful. It depends on what you do to your groin. But I mean, he hasn't looked spectacular this season, and it's tough for young goalies. People are way, way, way too critical of young goalies. It takes a lot of time to get comfortable at the NHL level in the goalie position. So more reps are really what gets you comfortable. And you hate to see a young goalie get hurt because then he's missing out on those reps. But this is a chance for Grigoriev to step in there, and now he's going to get those reps. In this is going to be his chance to take over that starting job. Neither of these guys have really done anything to edge out the other in terms of getting that starting job and trying to be the guy in New York. So he's going to have a great opportunity here. And if he can play lights out, it's going to be tough for Shesterkin to get back in that net when he does come back. But somebody's going to take that job. I mean, the expansion draft's coming. You got to think one of those two goalies is not going to be able to stay there. So they're playing for their livelihood in New York.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to see. It's a huge opportunity. Like you said, I don't think either of the goalies have done enough to take the job. Here's an opportunity for Georgiev to maybe get hot, but the New York Rangers this year have been pretty underwhelming. They had the Tony DeAngelo stuff. The only real bright spot for them as of late for me is Chris Kreider. He's been out of control. He had his second hat trick in like 8 games the last night or the night before. So I mean, I like Kreider. I like some guys on the Rangers, but the hype train around, like, even it started heading into the playoffs, like into the playoff format. It started, and the hype train was just too loud. And we'll see what happens, man. But you know, we have some games on the docket for tonight and through the weekend that are pretty good. You got the Bruins and Capitals going at it again. You got Tampa Bay and Chicago going at it again. St. Louis Blues, LA Kings, Colorado Avalanche, Anaheim Ducks, and then you have Minnesota and Arizona. And at 10:30, there's a Vegas and San Jose game. Another 1:00 matinee on Saturday of the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers. The CBC game on Saturday, the Leafs take on Vancouver. That's a notable game as well. So it looks like there's some pretty good hockey on the docket. I know the Bruins play Sunday against New Jersey as well, Jack. So we'll definitely be back on Monday with a shit ton more to talk about, guys. Let you know that you can follow us on Twitter at Tarps Off Sports and at Tarps Off Hockey _, I believe, on the hockey. I don't even know. You guys just look it up. And my
_ the hockey.
Yeah, _ on the hockey. It's we got so many, like, there's so many platforms now. We got people building TikToks. We got all sorts of shit going on at Tarps Off Sports. We got gambling degenerate guys that have been added in that I didn't even know were here, and they're like, oh yeah, they're in now. I don't even know who these people are. It's a fucking mess, Jack, but we wouldn't want it any other way. I want to let you guys know that you should hit the subscribe button and make sure you don't miss an episode, because we're going to give you everything in hockey the way those mainstream crybabies like Myrtle and Haggerty won't do. How about you both stink? Jack, anything to add before we go other than those two stink?
Put down the whiskey, Jimmy Murphy. See you Monday.
Get rid of the whiskey and bust out the stool, buddy. Take care.